Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral services of Barbara Whitman. Rabbi Aaron Wolf will be officiating. For those of you who are here, please take a moment to be sure that your phones have been turned off, and we welcome those of you who are joining us online.
Mizmor David, Adonai Roi Lo Yachzor, Inois Deshi Abitzeni, Amei Menuchoi Sina Aleini, Nafshi Yeshovev Yancheni, V'Magli Tzedek, V'Na'an Shmo, Gam Ki Eilech Begeitz Hamoves, V'Ira Ra Ki Ato Imodi, Shivtecho Mishantecho, Heimo Yinachamoni, Ta'aloich Lefonai Shulchan Neged Tzoreroi, Ishanta Vashemen Roishi Koisi Rabaya Ach Toiv Vachesed Yidifuni Koyemei Chayai Vishafti Veis Adinoi Lo'erech Yam. Ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered here today to pay tribute, pay our last respects to Barbara Whitman. It doesn't happen very often that I stand at the podium in a cemetery when I really did not know the deceased. But I do know the Goldrich family. I've known the Goldrich family for a very long time. And Sue spoke to me a number of times the last week or two, get some guidance regarding Barbara's decline, as she declined really quickly. Should we do this? Should we do that? So, out of respect to the family, when they asked me to come and be here today, although I made them wait till 3 o'clock, but I'm here. At a funeral, usually there's a eulogy. What's the purpose of a eulogy? What's the purpose of a eulogy? You know, sometimes when you want to praise someone that's alive, it's really the best thing you can do. Because when you praise someone, you know that the performance will just be better and better. That's human nature. You were so wonderful, you performed, you did this, you did that. Tell it to a child. You know this child is really going to want to continue to be at the very best. But why do we have to say that to someone who's no longer with us? So there are many discussions, actually, a lot of the commentaries talk about it. But one of the reasons is so that we can try for ourselves, try to pinpoint one or two things. You don't need to concentrate on a dozen. One or two or three things that this person excelled in, and say, how can I apply that to myself? How can I apply that to my family, to my lifestyle? Halomid mikol adam. Eza chacham. Halomid mikol adam. We have to learn from everyone. And more so to learn from those that are no longer with us. And by us following in their paths, following, all their good virtues and all their good deeds that they were involved in, the neshama gets an aliyah. Because if I'm going to walk away here today and say, okay, I'm going to start giving more tzedakah, for example, because she really excelled in that, just as an example. We'll soon hear, from the ones who knew her much better, who knew her. And then you walk away and you do something because this is what you heard at the funeral, the neshama gets an aliyah, gets credit for all the good deeds we are going to be doing from what we heard today. Not only do we benefit, everybody does a mitzvah benefits, but the neshama benefits because it's as a result of what we heard today that we decided to take upon ourselves to do ABC. So that's really one of the most important reasons of a eulogy. Not so much for the deceased, it's for us. So we're going to ask, Shad? Yeah? Please tell us all about Barbara.
These are my mom's words. She's been under the weather. She wanted to come today, but she couldn't make it, so sure, thank you. So these are the words that she wrote about Barbara. Thanks. Barbara Jean Olshansky was born August 13th, 1945 in Chicago, the daughter of Ted and Ida Olshansky, the sister of Michael Shalom, who passed away just over a year ago. Barbara and Michael were first cousins to Steve's mother, my grandmother, Jean, sister Shirley, and brother Jack. Their father, Leon Barish, and Barbara and Michael's mother, Ida, were brother and sister. Barbara married Irv Whitman in the 1970s. They did not have children, but they had a loving marriage for over 30 years until Irv's untimely passing in 2002. She had a long career, over 35 years, as a social worker for the city of Chicago. Everyone she worked with adored her. She had many long-lasting friendships, and it's plain to see why. When I ask the family in Israel what comes to mind when they think of the Barish and Olshansky family, similar descriptions were used by all. Ellen, our cousin Ellen, said, "They were the most gentle, sweet, and unassuming people, not a mean bone in their body." Robert said, "They always radiated thankfulness and therefore happiness. When I was a little boy, I remember always feeling important when Aunt Ida and Uncle Ted said hello." Sharon wrote, "They were extremely pleasant people. I never heard anything negative from any of them. Always very polite and respectful. They were very family-oriented. Although their own family was quite small, they always showed love and interest in the wider family circle." Stephen's mom hosted many family gatherings, especially big dinners on Chol HaMoed Pesach, where all the cousins would get together. Jean, or Savta, Allah Shalom, checked in on Aunt Ida and Uncle Ted when they needed help, and as they got older, and always included them in everything going on in the family. The only time I saw them and chatted briefly was at these family gatherings. Fast forward many years. Aunt Ida, Uncle Ted, and my blessed mother-in-law were no longer here. Barbara would call me once in a while to ask Stephen a tax question or catch up on family news. Then we began to speak more and more often as Michael was becoming very ill, and she herself needed help after a bad fall. By this time, she and Michael were living in the same apartment in West Rogers Park with caregivers around the clock. I would ask her if there was shopping I could do for her. Her answer was always the same: "Only if you're going anyways. I don't want you to make a special trip for me." She was so meticulous about reimbursing the money I spent. I would say, "Never mind, next time." It wasn't much, but she insisted, and it was proper to pay me back. And I want to emphasize, our conversations weren't only about what the doctor said or groceries. She was a very smart woman with an amazing memory. She would ask about the family in Israel all the time. She remembered the cousins and children's names, what they were studying, what their jobs were. She reminisced about her trip to Israel for a family simcha with her husband Irv many years ago, arranged by Aunt Shirley. I loved listening to the Barish family tree. She explained all the connections so well. After she would update me on her health, she would say, "Now tell me something nice. Tell me something about your kids." She gave each of them wedding gifts and gifts to our grandchildren, my kids. And she would ask about Stephen's health, about my aches and pains, give me advice, and follow up with me. Barbara, you were a lovely, special person with a great sense of humor. You enriched our lives in a very meaningful way, and we will miss you. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank, with much respect and admiration, the wonderful people who cared for Barbara: Benita, Christina, Anlin, Henry, Neil, and others I may not have met. Thank you very much. It's all written, again, by my mother, who had a lot of contact with Barbara over these years, and it was really amazing for me to see, because my mom was not even a blood relative of hers, but that's how my mom is. And so it's how she wanted to say these words.
Just to connect it to this week's Torah portion. There's a time when there's bitterness. People are sad, especially at a funeral. The Torah tells us, "Vaymoru es chayayim." When the Eden were in Egypt, their lives were bitter. And a lot of hard labor. And as far as they were concerned, they couldn't see the end. Couldn't see the end of the tunnel. When is this all going to be over? But very soon came Moshe Rabbeinu. The Torah says, "Vatera Oisa Kitayfu." They realized this can happen, in no time. All of a sudden, we have a Moshe Rabbeinu who appears, Taifu, the whole. All of a sudden, everything was full of light when he was born, and actually the redemption began. Because that's when the whole story of Exodus, which is the name of Chomesh Shammais, that all began. The story with the plagues, and the whole procedure of how the Yidden actually left Mitzrayim. So one moment can be full of morer, full of my morer was chayayim, avoda kosha, and a minute later comes Moshe Rabbeinu and he says, "We'll take care of it. It's not going to be long, and you're all going to see freedom. You're all going to see how there's no more slavery, no more torture, no more pain and suffering." So at a funeral where we are right now in Vaimoraru, but we always have to have faith that the day will come where there'll be no more pain and no more suffering. Mashiach is going to come and take us out of Golus. I think we all agree we've had enough suffering, enough wars, and unfortunately a lot of loss. And very, very soon we're all going to merit, going to be zeicher to have the Geula through Mashiach Tzidkeinu. I want to mention one more thing. I think David can testify that many people leave this world and not necessarily with a very traditional funeral the way halacha requires. And when you have someone, Baruch Hashem, with the help of the family, who we're here today to say, to bid farewell to someone who left the world the way halacha says. Everything was done 100% according to halacha. That's a schus too. You don't just take things for granted, because, as I said, those that are in the industry know how many people choose a different type, a different end, which I don't want to get into. So Baruch Hashem, we're here to witness Amidaf Leben V'Ayid, Amidaf Shtaben V'Ayid, And Baruch Hashem, she has that schus, and I also made a commitment to the family that I will be saying Kaddish for her for the 11 months, as the tradition is. So in addition to having a proper funeral, Kaddish will be said 3 times a day as well. This way.
Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment, the gentleman will bring the cover of the vault. You can come forward and place earth into the grave. The tradition is to place at least 3 measures without handing the shovel from person to person. hand on there. Okay, we'll do this 3 times, okay? 1.
Steve? We haven't talked to him. We never got a thing for Michael.
Anybody else?
We never got a thing. What are they talking about?
Look here. Take off your gloves so that doesn't push me. Everyone has an opportunity, then we'll, as the gentleman, push the rest in, but then what we can do is leave a little so you can finish it up. Does everybody have an opportunity? Do you have an opportunity? Here. Can I hold your purses for you, ladies? You don't have to take them. I'll hold the purse for you. Anyone who's not taking a moment to sign the register book, we have it over here.
Als we dat betekent dat we het gevoel dat we zich rennen in geest, hier naar de gaan rachen in de toekomst kunnen gaan naar rachen was niet geest. Adam en Son hier, hij heeft Son hier maar is een week hij Borg daar nemen ze nog hij borg die had ik hem zien hij me zeker dat ik bij hij me zal nog eens bij hem die hij maar kan dus maar hij dat je teen dan ik dat niet meer gehad dit heb dat we gaan is het geschafft hebben in haar met de spata gehad صادقات آن بیاس مش متقدین همه داین همه شیفت صدق به همس بارق داین همه شکامش پات صدق به همس نفش کن خبیه دقا صدق مولا یمی خبیه دقا رحم افتید سنگی دقا بسیار مال خیر بیه دقا دیده لیت من افعالی لیا عشه هنه خفی کوخیز آکل در خبینی آدم لسیس لیش کی تخاف بخیفنی مع الله و حق دیگه جنایت سوری بلی عبل صبایی آدینای ناسان و آدینای لکاخ یهی شیم آدینای مبین آفو رحم خب مولا یاشخیز Before we say the Kaddish, we're going to do the Kemal Rachman. So, if you can, please rise for the Kemal Rachman. El Rachamim Shoichem Ameloimim Hamsei Menuch Nechoy Lakam Fiashkina B'Malois K'dayshim Utoilim Kizer Arikem Azirim Es nishmas basya bas tuvya shehol chol hiyolam bavur shnav v'tzaka b'das kares nishmasa b'gan ve'edin teimenu chasa lochem balarachmim yastiro b'seise kenafov le'elamim b'yitzre b'terachem es nishmasa adonai hu nechalasa b'sonuach b'shalom ha'mishkava v'neimar Amen. Which way?
Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the service. Memorial contributions in her memory to the Chicago Mitzvah campaign would be appreciated. For those of you who are joining us online, information about the Chicago Mitzvah campaign can be found on the Funeral Home's website. You may return to your car.